Okay, welcome back. We're going to go ahead and open a photo in here. Let's go ahead and get, just going to try to find, we're going to open up this photo here in Photoshop. I'm not sure what it is, but it's something, okay. It's a picture of my daughter, cute girl. All right. What we're going to do is go in and make some changes in this. We're going to use some of the different tools in order to do it. Now, let's first go over here to our burn tool. This will allow us, if you'll see, it will go in here. It's going to change right through here the different variations of it. My brush size is 500. It's going to burn my midtones or darken them, and its exposure is about 40%. So if I come over here, we're going to come in and see how it's darkening up that area. But notice it's only burning the midtones. It's not burning the highlights here. And it hasn't done a lot with the shadows. I can come over here and I can change the highlights, and I can darken the highlights a little bit. Or I can come in here to the shadows and darken the shadows of something. Okay, so that's what the dodge or the burn tool do. Next to it is the dodge tool. This tool allows us to lighten areas. In other words, if we're dodging something, we're keeping it from getting light. So the shadows right now, we can go in here and we can lighten up those shadows a little bit. Come in here and lighten that up just a little. We can go to the midtones. We can lighten our midtones up a little bit. And we can adjust the exposure rate too, so it doesn't lighten it up too much. Okay. And we can also go to our highlights and say, I want to highlight, bring up my highlights and make those a little bit brighter as well. Now I'm using a hard edge brush. You can also use a soft brush, which will allow that to blend in a little more gradually as we work with it. Okay, so the dodge and burn tools are there. Now there's one other tool here. That's the sponge tool. You can either desaturate, which means that what it will do is remove color from an area. Okay, and so it'll pull all that out, and now all that becomes a gray image. Or we can go in and saturate and increase the density of the amount of color that's in there. Okay, so those are a couple of things to consider with that. Now let's talk about some of the selection tools. I'm going to use a different picture to examine that. Okay, we're back here. We're going to look at a different picture. Let's go ahead and grab this picture. Again, I'm not quite sure what. Okay, yeah, my family. Yeah, this is Watch Howard Fulmer's family time. All right, let's talk about the different selection tools. We've got a number of tools up here. Okay, this is the marquee tool. It will allow you to select squares or rectangles. You can see that dashed line that's going around. With that dashed line right there, if I come in here now, I can come in and paint, and it will stay just within that area. Okay, and undo it. We can do a perfect square by pushing the Shift key, and that will keep that square perfect. Or we can do a perfect circle. We can do a circle from the center point, things like that, just like we did with Illustrator. Now you'll notice that there are different choices here. This second one in the option will allow you to add to it. This will allow you to subtract, and so on. This will merge. All of these tools have these same sort of functions. Feathering gives it a soft edge between this. So for example, let's say this is selected, oops, right here, and I'm going to put this at 100. So we've got this really hard edge right there. Okay, now if I change my feathering on this to 25 and draw another circle, and now I'll paint on this, and notice that with that feathering on there, it's allowing that color to fade out over 25 pixels. So instead of giving me a hard edge, it's giving me a little bit softer edge with it. Okay? So I'm undo both of those. Alright, and there are other choices in there, and you can kind of explore those a little bit on your own. The lasso tool, there are a lot of different choices with the lasso tool. One, the lasso allows you to select areas kind of freely. Let's say I just want to select my family. Okay, I can select just them and then come in and do whatever I want. Paint, draw, do any of that stuff, and it will isolate just that area. Okay, or I can go in and copy it and paste it. I'll copy this, create a new document, and paste it, and then it will bring that new document or that image in. Okay. There's the lasso tool. Now there are some variations of that. If I go to the polygon lasso tool, I can come in here and I can click and be able to select very carefully exactly the shape that I want. Now I can't do circles, I can't do round shapes with that. In order to do round shapes, I have to have the other lasso tool selected, the free-flowing lasso tool, to give me a round shape, but then I can't have a square shape. So there are certain limitations to this. Also, when you go to select, deselect, or Command D, it's gone. It disappears. So I don't really have the option. It's not a very good tool for precise selection. You can get pretty close, but again, it's not the best tool for precise selection, especially if you run out of space with your mouse, then you're going to have some problems. Okay. The polygon lasso tool, one thing I want to point out is that if you click on it and you don't get back to where you started, you're in what we like to call polygon hell, because it doesn't know where to end. So you just double click rapidly in the same place and then it will automatically select it. Then just push Command D and it will deselect. So that's a safe way to do it. Another one of the tools that we'll select is the Magic Wand tool, and this selects by color or value. So it's going to pick all the reds here, or if I increase my tolerance to, let's say, 50, I click here, it's going to get more of that red, but you'll notice it doesn't get all of it. I've got to go in and push the Shift key and add to that selection in order to get more of it. Now, these aren't the best tools to select, but they're good for quick selection. Okay? And so that will be useful to be able to do that. Push Command D to deselect. Then here's the eyedropper, and I want you to notice the fill color, or the foreground color. If I click here, it's going to click those browns. Okay, here it's a red, yellow, white, and so on. Now let's zoom in really close here. I'm going to zoom in really, really close. You can see all the variations in this tone right here. Notice that it's picking these colors by pixel. Part of the problem with this is we see all of these pixels blending together, and what we see is one general color. But in reality, it's a bunch of different colors that are combined. Let's see if we can find a space here. Here we go. It's a bunch of different colors that are combined to give us a certain color. And so as we select, it's going to give us that one specific color. So what may seem yellow is actually going to be green. Now I've got my options on point sample. I'm going to change that from point sample to 3x3 or 5x5 average, and it will go in and it will sample a stronger average of those, so I'll get a little more general color for it. So there's an advantage there. Okay. Alright. And then of course you have all these other drawing tools here that you can select from to draw with this. This is our crop tool. What this will allow me to do is to select an area and see how it breaks it up into the rule of thirds. I can select an area and hit this and it will crop it down. Okay. The hand tool will click and allow you to move things around, especially if I'm up close on something and I'm working on it. If I have the hand tool, I can drag it around. Now the real advantage of this is if I'm working, like let's say for example I'm burning this area. I want Samson's face to be just a little bit darker. So I'm going to go to the highlights right here, and I want to darken this up. Well, I got to get everywhere else. So rather than having to go to this tool, I'm just going to push the space bar. That will let me drag the picture down. It will give me the hand, and I can make Cooper's face a little darker. Hit the space bar, and come over here and hit Margie's face, and come over here, and then hit Chloe's face. So I can go in and make all those changes by just dragging it around. Now, like Illustrator, if I push the spacebar and Command key, it will give me the zoom tool. If I push spacebar, Command, Option, it will zoom out. And so that's a real advantage there. There are those two tools. Don't ever go to them. It just takes too much time. Push your spacebar to get your hand tool. Push your spacebar command to get the zoom in. Spacebar command option, zoom out. Okay? We'll come back. I want you to just kind of take your time and practice with the different tools. Practice going across and changing the size of your brushes, changing the exposure, at least in the paintbrush, changing the opacity. What's it going to look like at 35? What's it going to look like at 85? What's it going to look like with soft brush versus hard brush? Okay. Then change colors. Get a new color, go in here and see what they look like when they blend together. If I change this to a lower opacity, a softer brush, what's that going to look like as I build that up a little bit? Okay. Now if you want a shortcut to some of these colors, also go to Window, and you can go to your swatches. That's going to give you a bunch of preset colors that you can come in and select and draw from. Alright, so go ahead and start practicing, start working, and we'll see you some more next week.